Redford had achieved a surprising commercial success, bringing a piece of his own outsider character to the screen in Jeremiah Johnson. But even after returning to civilization, while filming The Great Gatsby in Newport, Rhode Island the following year, he remained true to himself.
I was very comfortable with him once I got past being speechless. Bob was the star of this party we both went to. There we were in one of the great big houses with the top-notch society people, and they were mighty impressed to have Robert Redford at this party. They brought a little silver tray, and there were shrimps and maids and champagne and stuff, and he said, do you have a beer? This is so great. Do you have a beer? And beer? His polite request just cut through all of the grandeur, and he just wanted a bud or something.
Redford's ability to cut through artifice and listen to his own inner voice was rooted in a tumultuous youth that brought him to acting.
He's just mad lately, all the time.
A known fact. So if he has a flaw, it would be this minor one, that he's not the most punctual.
When we would go to dinner, I would go to the restaurant, and I would order, and I would start to eat, and I would often be three-quarters of the way finished or finished by the time he showed up.
Why Bob chooses to be compulsively late, you'll have to ask him.
First of all, I think it's exaggerated. I also think it's true. Time was always a big issue for me. There's just some part that's rebellious.
Robert Redford was born in 1937 to a working-class family in Santa Monica, California.
Mother was from Texas, and a wide-open, open-faced, big-hearted attitude, and father was dark and closed. My father was a good man. It's just that I just didn't feel understood, and it's simple as that.
Redford's father, a milkman who later became an accountant, was afraid that his son would never amount to much.
There is a certain aspect in Redford's own biography that is being worked through in the relationships of his films. If you look at A River Runs Through It, Ordinary People, Quiz Show, Horse Whisperer, just to take a few examples, the concern with family is paramount, especially a father-son relationship.
In both Downhill Racer and The Candidate, there are scenes in which a strong, domineering father plays a kind of chess game with his son.
Did you know that old Bud here is running for the United States Senate?
That's very good, Bud.
Get him a real drink. He'll need one.
No, thanks. No.
Any man running for the Senate has to want something. Right, Bud?
I knew about his relationship with his own father, and I think it colored the scene that we play with his fictional father in Downhill Racer.
Win any money? No, see, we're thinking ahead 2 years for the Olympics. The Olympics ain't for money. You put together 2 good years. You win a couple of... Well, I just hope you don't end up asking yourself the question some folks ask me. What's he do it for? It's frustrating. As a kid, that you felt you had a view of one thing. You felt you were someone. You were treated like you should be somebody else, and it just didn't gel.
As a teenager growing up in Los Angeles, Redford's alienation from his family grew.
I had some very deep, strong, clear feelings that were not understood. I think I was constantly rebelling against an environment that was beautiful but false in its promises. At a certain point, when Los Angeles got full of itself and got wealthy, it lost something. It just pulled away as a feeling of home. Neighborhoods didn't develop, they went away. And suddenly you had high-rises, and you had banks, and you had condos. And I lost interest in it. I couldn't find a way to express my feelings. I was an athlete when I was younger, so that was helpful because it gave me a physical outlet. And I drew, so there was an artistic side, but I hadn't yet found a place to go. Kept hearing, "Are you a trouble boy?" Or "Why are you always in trouble?" I would rob stores in Beverly Hills. Just had the satisfaction of I got away with something they didn't deserve. And then there's a sign that says Beverly Hills, no honking in the streets. And I thought, what is this? All these gigantic mansions around. So we'd drive through there and honk our brains out, and then got into more trouble. And there's jail. There was never prison or anything like that. So I don't see it as horrible stuff, but it certainly was trouble. The deepest and most important trouble was the trouble I had with myself, not knowing why I was feeling some of the feelings I was feeling. Why the frustrations? Why the anger? Why the rebellion?
In 1955, at age 18, Redford accepted a baseball scholarship to the University of Colorado, where he developed into an excellent skier.
I had no interest in being at school in Colorado. I just wanted to be in Colorado. I wanted to be in the mountains. I wanted to be in something pure in nature. And I wanted to be with people that were not affected the way Los Angeles seemed to be affected, with obsessions of money and the film business and so forth. I was not impressed with that.
But after only a year, Redford dropped out of college and traveled through Europe. Then in 1958, he settled in New York with his new bride, Lola Van Wagenen, a 17-year-old from Utah he had met in Los Angeles the year before.
People always bugging me about what am I going to do, because they were nervous about me, being a bum. So I made up something just to get them off my back. I'm going to be an art director. I didn't have a clue what that really meant. Somebody suggested that if I had some theater background, some theater training, like set design, that kind of thing, it would help with a art direction career. And I said, fine. I was up for anything. So I opened up the paper, and the largest ad is where I went, which was for the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. And so I went in there to see if I could get in. They said, yes, so we'll set a date for an audition. I thought, you mean I got to act?
Redford was accepted into the Academy, a training ground for screen legends Spencer Tracy and Jason Robards.
I spent literally the first month hiding. I wore a hat, had the hat down my head. I wore an overcoat, had the collar turned up. It's like, don't come near me. And particularly, don't ask me to act. Because I was shy. I was scared.
But in his first school assignment, a bad partner helped Redford make a breakthrough while rehearsing a scene.
I realized when we were going back and forth and I was giving lines to him that he was mouthing my words. If I say hello, if your line is hello, how are you? I thought, what in the hell is he doing? Well, one thing he's not doing is listening. And it really got me. And I felt so bad anyway. And I felt suddenly the whole thing came together. I shouldn't be here. This is a stupid thing I'm doing. Who is this guy? So when I got up to do the thing, I just grabbed him and just flung him across the room. And tore his button off. And I felt so awful. I just said, I got to get out of here. I realized I made a fool out of myself. I done something bad to this guy. But I just thought, this has nothing to do with anything. This guy isn't acting. This isn't acting. This is just bullshit. I started leaving. The teacher held it back and said, don't stop doing it. You have a long way to go, that's for sure, but don't stop doing it. And that encouragement was completely puzzling to me. But as it turned out, probably one of those moments. Had I gone out of that room, I would not have come back.
Sidney Lumet was auditioning actors for the role of Pruitt in his television version of Eugene O'Neill's play The Iceman Cometh, and had heard about Robert Redford.
Worthington Minor, who's the producer on the show, said, listen, I went to a graduate exercise of American Academy of Dramatic Arts. There's this kid there, Robert Redford. He is going to be, it was the story. He's going to be one of the biggest I've ever read. We must read him for this part.
I look like someone totally wrong for the part. He's supposed to be a neurotic, Jewish, wiry-haired guy that was on the verge of insanity. And when I went in, Sidney said, well, you look like a surfing bum from California. I said, I can do this. Just please give me a chance. He then said, look, this is crazy, but it's just interesting enough, I'll do it.
That part, Pruitt in The Iceman Cometh, is a terrible part. It's a big part, but it's a badly written part. You can make an emotional sense of it.
But he's the only one who needs peace, Larry.
The language is very, very bad.
I can't feel sorry for him. He's lucky.
Very tough to act. And he somehow managed. It was amazing.
And I'm not putting up any bluff now either. That I was crazy afterwards when I laughed, and I thought to myself, you know what you can do with your freedom pipe dream now, don't you, damn old bitch?
Redford had a longer television apprenticeship than most stars of his stature, acting in more than 20 dramas in the early 1960s, and he also made his mark on the stage.
I loved being on the stage. I remember the most thrilling moment for me as a young actor was that moment when all the noise you could hear backstage suddenly quieted down and it turned to silence and the curtain went up.
Redford won strong reviews for his work in Sunday in New York and the Broadway hit Barefoot in the Park with Elizabeth Ashley. His rise as a movie star was just around the corner. Robert Redford's first film role came in the 1962 Korean War film War Hunt. He had a sizable part, playing a newcomer to a fighting squad.